Okay, so we're going to talk about calculating weighted averages. And a lot of your tests are set up to be weighted averages. So our categories, and they usually make them as knowledge, thinking or inquiry, communication, and application, right? And your course weighs each of them differently. So each of these categories has been given a different weight. What's important is the weights will always add up to a total of 100, especially for a test. Now, maybe you have some other weighted thing where it doesn't add up to 100, but just recall that these weights, whatever their total is considered 100% of the information. Okay, so luckily they've given us percentages here. And it could be something like scores, like see on this one here, 2, 3, 3, 3, 1. Altogether, that would be 100% of the information. Okay, so we just put them as percentages. Now, you have scores on your test. In each category, you score different. You got an 8 out of 10 in thinking, which is worth 25% of the test. 9 out of 10 in inquiry, which is 28. 10 out of 10 on communication, which is 22. And they did really poorly on application, which is 30%, the heaviest weight to the test. Now, your average on the test is 30 out of 40, which is a 75%, right? So you really got, or from your understanding, you got 75%. But we have to actually include all of the weighting to this, okay? So there's a couple ways we can go about this. Usually what they do for your formula for weighted averages is they do the sum of, okay, your score, which I think they'll call, do they call it X or in your case? I think they call it X. Let me see. Oh, sorry, yeah. The weights will be known as W, so sum of W, times the sum of X, divided by the sum of the weights, so weight I. Okay, and this is known as your weighted average. Okay, so this is this formula. We have to talk about what does this formula mean. This value here means the sum of. So we're adding up the weight times the score, and we add all the weights times the score, and then divide it by the total weighting. Now, luckily, we've done percentages, so we know our total weighting is going to be out of 100. That's simple. And maybe we should have given us values. And you know what? We can change this after just to do a comparison. Okay? Now, our weights are here, 25, 28, 22, and 30. And our scores, which are X, are here. Okay? So if we're to build this formula, let's do each one like this. So the weighted mean, so X bar W, X bar being the mean, you need the sum of each. So we take our first weight, and our first weight is 25, right? So 0.25, okay? Now, sorry, if I do it as 0.25, then everything's divided by 1. So let's actually do it as 25 as our percentage. Maybe it'll be easy for you to understand that way. So we have 25, and our score, our first score is 8 out of a 10, which is what percentage, what you say? Do you know? What would 8 out of 10 be as a percentage?
80.
80, yeah. So we'll multiply it by 80, okay? And because it's a sum of, we need to add it to our next score. So our next score here being 28 times 90, okay? We'll move this over so we have room. The next score after that, we take 22, and we multiply by 100%, so we ace the communication part. And then finally, we add to the last value, which is 30 times 30, so it's a bit smaller. Oh, we could fit it in. Can you see that? 30 times 30. Okay. And all of this is equal to the sum of all of the weights. Well, all of our weights are 25 plus 28 plus 22 plus 30. Okay, does this make sense so far? Okay, so we've set it up like this. So now really from here, because they've given us a formula, it's just strictly calculating X bar weights. And we'll have more room if I move it over. So let's actually figure out what these are. You have a calculator on you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Somewhere? There it is. So let's do the first one. 25 times 80.
Is 2,000.
2,000. Okay, so the first one is 2,000 plus 28 times 90.
2,520.
20, okay, plus 22 times 100, which is 2,200. And then the last one is 30 by 30. 900. So already by looking at the total values, you can tell that 900 is a bit low compared to the rest, right? And then we know all of these added together are going to be 100. We already know it's set up as a percentage. So let's add these values together. And then we're going to be dividing it by 100 after we add them.
I got 7,620.
7,620. Okay, so that's not bad. Now let's divide that by 100.
76.2.
36.2%. So actually, even though you did really poorly on the application, your percentage was higher than your actual total of 75. You actually got a 76.2 because you did so well in those other categories. Okay, so the weighting, you actually got a better mark than you would have perceived on this test. You got a 76. Now let's do something, let's change a couple things here. I just want to change the weights and continue through this question. So let's zoom back in. I'm changing the weightings to very arbitrary numbers. We're going to keep the scores identical. But let's say the weights are 1, 3, 9, and 27. Okay, so these are our new weights, let's say. Let's see how that changes our scores. Okay, so I want you to talk to me on how I would set up this formula again. So we know it's going to be the sum of the weights times the scores divided by the sum of the weights is equal to x bar weighted. So our first weight is a value of 1. Okay, so we have 1 times, and our first score was 80. Okay, just from my memory. Our second score was 3. And, or sorry, our second weight is 3. Our second score is 90. Okay. Our third weight was the value of 9. So it's really going up in weight now. Our value of 9, and our score was 100. So that's good. And then finally, our last weight is 27, and our score is 3. So that's 30 times, oh, I put those in the wrong order, times the 27. Okay, so we have our 27 here. Have all of those. Underneath, we have to add up all of our weights. Now, luckily, we know that we wrote our first numbers as all the weights. So we're adding 1 plus 3 plus 9 plus 27. Okay? So our weight total is far different than it was last time. Last time it was out of 100. This time, it's written this way. Okay? So let's get our scores. We're going to get 80 plus 270 plus 900. I'll need you to calculate that last one for me. 6. 810?
810.
Yeah, 810. And then 10, 30, 40. I think it's out of 40. Is that right? Okay. So now we add up all of our scores here. So we know it's going to divide by 40 in the end.
Is 2,060.
2,060?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And now let's divide this by 40.
51.5.
51.5. So if our weights were that way, because the one part at the end here was weighted as a 27, which is huge, and we did so bad, we actually got a 51. We barely passed this test because the most important part we did really poorly on.
Yeah.
Okay, so the weights are very important on what our scores are going to be. Okay, so because that thing was weighted so well, or so heavily, and we did really poor, it really affected from our true average. Our running average was really just 75, but we actually got a 51. So I would have been really shocked to find out my true mark on that.